This episode of the Totally Rad Show is brought to you by Gamefly. Coming up, we sit down with the lead designer of Spec Ops: The Line and get some quality hands-on with the game.
Hey, we're hanging out with Cory Davis, the lead designer of Spec Ops: The Line, and we're hanging out playing Spec Ops: The Line, of course, which should be coming out today as you see this. We're playing on Xbox 360. Cory, thanks for hanging out with us.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for having me over today.
Absolutely. So, the first thing I want to know, and there's a lot of military shooters out there.
Yeah.
Spec Ops certainly looks to have a very different approach, a very different tone to it than a lot of the military shooters we're seeing. What was your design concept going into this project?
Well, like you said, there's a lot of great military shooters out there. Like the genre definitely is packed full of really heavy hitters right now, and we really wanted to sort of do what war films did for film after the Vietnam era. Was sort of our focus since the start of the project, to try and bring a more I would say humanistic view to the things that we're expressing in the game. Trying to go into the psychological nature of how conflicts affect soldiers and things like that. So that's where we started, and then we ended up actually with a very unique experience, in part because of the setting we chose as well, which is Dubai after these cataclysmic sandstorms have sort of rendered it a no man's land.
Yeah.
And filled it with millions of tons of sand.
So this is awesome because I've always wanted to go to Dubai. So
Yeah.
I love
Not
seeing,
quite like this.
Not quite like that. You know, kind of. I want to have the adventure package.
Yeah, I mean, that's, desert is sort of a new standard location for military games, but this has a completely different look to it.
Yeah, well, it's really tempting always to sort of just desaturate your environment, and because it can allow you to portray some realism that maybe you couldn't find some consistency enough to do that without desaturating it. It's also a really interesting place because it's not part of the military conflicts that are going on in the Middle East at this moment. It's a very international location. So it lets us tell our story in sort of a unique way where we don't focus on the global perspective, we focus on the perspective of our characters.
It's interesting. Did you guys get a chance to go to Dubai as a research?
Yeah, actually.
Darn it.
Alex, all you had to do was work on this game.
Yeah, next time. Spec Ops: The Line 2. I'm there. I want to travel, but
take you with us. Yeah, we were there quite often. My family actually lived in the region while I was in development in Oman, which is just like a 3-hour drive from Dubai. So we did some military training in the desert with our military advisor.
Wow.
oh man.
And we got to see how sand affects weaponry, and we did some references for our effects and things like that, and even the sand avalanche. We took a box of sand home from Dubai and kept it in the studio in Berlin. There's actually a lot of landmarks you're going to see in the game. The city is set up the way that it is in real life.
That's cool.
And you're going to be actually traveling sort of on a trajectory into a very interesting location towards the end of the game. I don't want to spoil it for you.
Okay. All right. Well, Dan, you're going to play a little of, this is what, chapter 2 we're in now at this point? Or not quite?
Yeah, we're just stepping into that, so.
Did you kind of conceptualize that because you're a fan of those movies? Like, I'm imagining Platoon and Full Metal Jacket and
Apocalypse Now.
Sure.
Yeah, Deer Hunter.
Yeah.
I would say Apocalypse Now is right up there in my top 1 or 2 favorite films of all time. And so, having the opportunity to take those same themes that they're expressing, of the fact that these soldiers have to make very difficult decisions in very tough scenarios. They have to live with those things, and those things actually affect them as human beings.
Yeah.
Actually, the part of the game that we skipped to get to this point, it's actually a pretty slowly paced section. We want you to get to know the characters. We want you to build a relationship with them. So basically, we started out letting you see a little bit of their evolution further into the plot lines here.
Yeah.
And then we flash back to our current timeline as they're just entering Dubai from the outside of the city limits.
Yeah.
I love that it goes into slow motion when you get a headshot. Is that what's happening?
Yeah, we really wanted to emphasize some of the brutality of this weaponry. Sort of tempt you to enjoy that.
And it's not like it goes in a bullet time and everything slows down. It's just a subtle thing that makes
very
the headshot
satisfying.
just very gratifying.
Yeah, there's if you pay attention, you might see some very interesting things taking place because of that.
Okay.
Some of the things that you do will be really heavily emphasized, and that's always surprising to me. I really enjoy that.
Fortunately, Dan never pays attention, so he's probably gonna mention.
Well, you have to do there's like jingling keys in front of Dan. He's like, oh, I got a headshot. Ching, 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 ching.
Did you feel like there was a challenge balancing the excitement of a fun shooter with the responsibility of kind of conveying the heaviness of what these soldiers really go through?
Yeah, it is definitely a challenge, but I think that, especially the stories that we hear from our military advisor and the stories that we read from soldiers that come back from the battlefield, that's a lot like what their experiences are like. They're out there typically with friends. They're not necessarily concerned with the political nature of those conflicts.
They're there to do a job.
Yeah, they're there to do a job, and they're very well trained, but you never can expect what you're going to find on the battlefield. Yeah. And so I think a lot of times it's just it's a story of contrast.
Yeah, the thing I found really interesting about the sort of AI friends is that they're very good. They're very good soldiers.
Yeah, we wanted them to be Delta
like
Force
that.
operators.
Yeah, that's really cool because it's a lot of times, you sort of they're sort of just hanging out, you know what I mean? And really they're horrible soldiers, you know what I mean? Like, if you stop behind cover, they're not going to kill anybody, they're not going to do anything, you know what I mean? So it's kind of refreshing to see them sort of be, and I saw that you can kind of like tell them to do things and take out different targets and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's almost sort of squad-based, but it really doesn't feel like a squad-based shooter. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you don't have to manage these guys or babysit them, but you can, they can definitely help you out when you're in trouble.
Yeah.
You can tell them to take out specific enemies. Say you're a short-range guy, you like to use short-range weaponry, you can tell Lugo to take out the snipers in the distance, for example.
That was awesome.
Whoa.
Nice work,
That
dude.
was awesome. That was very cinematic. Awesome.
There you go. Now you know how to use your grenade thing.
So Cory, how did you get into game design?
Actually, since I was pretty young, I was designing levels myself for games that I enjoyed. So,
which games?
Even Doom 2 and Quake and things like that. And then I got into Half-Life modding eventually, building levels for Half-Life Deathmatch and then Counter-Strike and then my own mods later on. And that's when I started to see maybe I could actually keep doing this because it was really, that's when I really enjoyed myself the most, was when I had my hands on a level editor building stuff. So I actually went to architecture school.
Oh, wow. That's applicable.
At Texas Tech. Yeah. And yeah, dude, you're falling into the abyss.
Shoot it. It seems like back in that time, in the sort of Quake, Doom era, the modding of games and making your own levels, I think it was much more prominent than it is now. Do you feel like that we've kind of lost something that
I think
kids don't really do that so much anymore?
I mean, there are some great projects going on. Like if you look around at the Unreal sort of community that's out there, the
Still
UDK
vibrant.
community, because they basically released all their tools for free.
Yeah.
You can even build a game, not just a mod, out of that. There's also still some people building source engine mods and things like that, but it was just a really strong community back in the day.
I guess kids are doing Minecraft now.
They're doing Minecraft, and also it's a lot harder to a lot of games actually are focused on the console now, and it's a lot back then. Basically, you had the source code on your PC, and you were just tearing it apart.
Right.
Yeah.
I worked on a dodgeball mod for Half-Life, and actually we built the systems out of the grenades in Half-Life.
Oh, interesting.
And the first time when we actually released our first prototype version, actually the grenades were still the ball. So there were these square cube balls that you were throwing around, and then all of a sudden one night I logged on and there was just a ton of people playing.
Oh,
and that was one of the most inspirational moments for me ever, because they're all talking about, oh, you could do this with it, you could do this with it. Hey, can you do this for us? Because we want to form a clan, things like that.
Or just in the epiphany in the shower and the ride to work, oh my God, if this, and this were to happen, and oh my God, that would be awesome. How do you implement that? I mean, I understand how you would implement that in a more controlled, a comic book, novel, movie, but in an interactive experience, how do you actually design? If you're not the guy sitting down to do it, and a lot of people are collaborating on it, how do you implement that? Do you storyboard sequences that are more specific, or to create the more cinematic sequence in a video game that's interactive?
Yeah, well, it depends. Like, for me, it usually starts
boy.
out with, oh shit.
That's a bad place to pause. Sitting on a grenade.
For me, it usually starts out with the geometry. Actually,
Architecture.
I usually think of things starting with the space that they take place in.
That's interesting.
And
It's cool that you're saying that right now because this is such an interesting space to be fighting.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like in this opulent hotel.
Dubai
like a
gave us some
lounge.
awesome opportunities
So
for that
neat.
stuff. Basically, we're like, let's make the coolest room ever. It probably exists in Dubai.
Yeah. How many onyx peacocks can we put in this room?
We had a really strong concept artist named Matthias Wiese, who was also our art director on the project. And he's just one of these guys that can just draw anything you're telling him really, really fast.
Oh, awesome.
And so
I'm gonna get one of those guys.
I know.
How do we get one of those?
So let me ask you, because it's a third-person action shooter.
yeah.
You know, how long through the development process or conceptualizing did you guys go, okay, well, we're not just going to make the first-person shooter of this. We're going to go and do the third-person, you know, cover mechanic, which looks very fluid and fun.
Thank you.
At what point did you guys go, oh, wrong way?
It's a grenade party.
It was a grenade party.
No way was
So,
the right
so
way.
at what point was that sort of from the beginning? You were like, let's not do a first-person shooter. We're going to do a
Well,
third-person action.
I had worked on, like previous to this, I'd always worked on first-person stuff, like the Fear and Condemned
Yep.
and those games. And, you know, I really like first-person shooters, but, you know, we sort of all came together with a little bit of fatigue at the start of the project from the things we'd
Interesting.
worked on in the past.
Yeah.
Like I had been looking at very dark first-person shooter environments for a really long time. And so we thought there was an opportunity to actually like show our characters as they evolve, like focusing on you know, sticking with this timeline, with this perspective, allowing them to change the way that they dress, the way that they talk to each other, the way that they move.
Yeah.
All of those things. Then you got to really sort of contemplate like how close you want to be to the character, how much do you want it to feel like a first-person shooter, how strong do you want those you know, weapon mechanics to be. Do you want to be actually looking down the barrel of those weapons? Because those things to me are very important as a developer. I want to feel like I'm actually firing my weapon.
Right.
So that's really challenging. You know, you got to decide, do you want your character in the center? Do you want them offset to the left? Do you want them offset to the right? Do you want to let the player control that?
Can you flip-flop?
On one hand, we started the conversation sort of talking about this purely creative storytelling side, but that's only really half your job. The other half is this really technical, like, well, the physics of where his feet land. It's such a strange hybrid job you have. Where you have to be. I mean, you're almost composing this narrative like a filmmaker might, but you're also doing very technical composition of
and it's
parts.
really challenging as well because you gotta. To me, it's almost like it's not like developing a film. It's like developing like 100 of them because like the player is really in control and can see things, you know, in ways that you just can't predict.
Yeah.
And so you've just got to be very perceptive. You got to do a lot of focus testing. You got to be willing to go back and say, okay, that scene worked for me, but it doesn't work for the average gamer because he's going to be probably distracted by this thing over here.
Right. Like 1,000 candles on the ground, for example.
Really cool looking.
And then you got to think of the interactive side of that. Oh, well, candles look really cool, but they're really expensive. Should they burn things if I walk on them? Should I be able to put them out if I walk on them? Which actually you can. But that's like, you know, that's a very tough decision to make because like when you do things like this, then you know there's other compromises that you have to consider.
Yeah.
The thing to me that probably pisses me off the most is when people build gameplay without any consideration for the environment. And they basically use the levels as a backdrop rather than a place that the player lives in and experiences.
Says the guy who went to architecture school.
Well, that's awesome. That's such
perfect,
an
I
awesome
know.
background to be drawn
I
from.
know.
You want to put enough effort into it so that the player's focus doesn't become his limitations, but becomes sort of the experience of moving through this very interesting, mysterious place.
Interesting.
And you know, you want to add those nooks and crannies where you know the player can go and find something that other players don't find. You want to build limitations to that environment that are definitely not invisible walls, that are believable. Okay, this building actually, it's set up like a real building, so I understand why I can't walk through that section.
Yeah.
We saw at E3 the new Unreal 4 engine.
Yeah.
And we're obviously have no experience using these practically, but it seems like where these tools are going, it's kind of taking a little of that, the technical side out of the equation a little bit. It's letting you kind of hop in and hop out and really hot test things. Is that something that is exciting, or is that?
It's very exciting, but at the same time, I wouldn't say it's taking the technical side out. It's basically raised the bar.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's basically said, okay, that stuff that you struggled with doing last generation, that's the easy stuff now. And so now everybody's going to be doing that stuff you struggled with. Now
So what are you going to struggle with now?
Now you're going to be struggling with something probably much more interesting and much more challenging.
That's a really cool perspective.
Yeah, and so I'm really excited for that. More than anything, I think I'm excited to have more memory to play with, on the next generation of hardware. Because basically, probably I would say 25% of our time right now as developers is spent trying to figure out how we can cram as much as possible into this very tiny amount of memory that we have. How to stream it in and out without going to loading screens all the time. Building that seamless experience is really important to me, but it's extremely challenging and expensive at this moment in game development.
The game looks great.
Yeah, phenomenal.
We're excited to play through more of it.
I don't want to stop playing.
Dan's the only one that's actually gotten to play it.
I know.
But thanks for stopping by. This is really cool. Very interesting.
Yeah,
to see.
and congratulations, man.
Yeah.
It's a big milestone.
Yeah, it was really fun when we first got in.
Yeah.
Corey got to see his name on the box for the first time, the retail packaged box, and it was a neat moment.
Yeah, that's always like the biggest moment for me is like, wow, that thing's because like I'm still thinking of, how can I improve things?
Yeah.
It's like
it's packaged.
Yeah, I can't shut that out. That's why they kicked me out of the studio for this PR thing.
Awesome. Well, thanks for stopping by, man. I
awesome.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Dude, I love it. All right, everybody, be sure to stick around. We're going to be answering one of your Twitter questions right after this. But first, we want to thank our sponsor, Jeff Cannata.
Oh, so many new video games coming out. Spec Ops The Line, only one of them.
Yeah.
There are so many right now and coming up in the future. You probably don't want to pay full price for them. You probably want to have a subscription to them because it's so much less expensive in the long run, and it's so easy with GameFly, the largest online game rental service. It offers you a choice of over 8,000 titles. That's a lot of video gaming. You can have them on new classic titles across all the consoles and handhelds, and with plans as low as $15.95 a month, you can rent 1 to 4 games at a time. Keep them as long as you like. You never have to send them back. I mean,
You don't actually ever have to send them back.
You don't. You can buy them if you like the game that you've been renting. You can buy them, but you don't ever have to pay to send them back. Is what
That's
I mean to say.
literally if you're playing more than one video game every 4 months.
You're saving money.
Crazy.
And we play more than that in a week.
Yeah, no doubt.
But yes, so there's no late fee. There's no due date. There's no fee to send it back, is what I clumsily tried to say. But the cool thing is, if you like a game and you want to keep it forever, you can get a reduced price and you can keep it. So it's super cool. You can get a free 15-day trial so you can check it out and see if you like it.
What about PC gamers?
PC gamers, they can also play hundreds of games for free with the unlimited PC Play.
Nice. Wow. I dig that.
Yeah, so get your free trial. Check it out, gamefly.com/TTRS.
Amazing. Get your backgrounds in, fans at TotallyRadShow.com.
Yeah, don't forget
we will
that.
see you tomorrow.
Join us tomorrow for a look at Magic the Gathering's new 2013 game.
Today's Twitter question sent in with the hashtag TRSQ from @JakeWezorek
What?
is, what is your favorite movie poster?
Dan turned into Elmer Fudd for a
I
second.
thought it was the guy
Jake
marrying people from Princess Bride.
Wezorek.
Marriage.
Wow.
What?
We are here to marry
He
Jack
asked-
Wezowick.
He asks, Jake Wezorek asks, what movie poster do you love? What posters do you
Whoa.
hang in your home because you love them so much?
This is right up your alley kind of cool. You're Mr. Movie Poster.
In fact, the movie poster that I love, one of the posters that I love the most is a poster that's hanging in my wall. It is a poster and I discovered it from doing an early TRS episode, first year, getting the pictures for Steve to put in, and we had to look through the movie posters.
Interesting.
And fell in love with the poster for The Explorers, which is of a bike leaning up against a wooden fence, very 80s, night sky, above it, and it says The Adventures in Your Backyard, and then above it is You don't need a driver's license to reach the stars.
Oh, Dan.
Very Dan.
Very Dan. I would say for me, it's pretty much anything Drew Struzan from the 80s. I mean, the Goonies poster is amazing. All the Star Wars posters that he did are amazing. But to be honest, some of the most exciting posters that I've seen have been the great artists over at Mondo who are doing the sort of like retro rehash of some of those. One of my favorites, which I actually looked into buying, was the Die Hard one where it was just a bunch of broken glass. You know what I mean?
Oh, those like
Those are. I don't even
down
know. Is that a
ones.
Mondo one? Because a lot of them are just guys that
I think
are
they're
online.
artists that get
just
sold
put-
through Mondo.
Those
or
are so
that
much
get
better
shown
than
on Mondo.
actual
Yeah.
movie.
The minimalist movie
But the funny thing
posters.
is, for me, Mondo is almost like Xerox now, where it's like, when I say Mondo, what I mean is that sort
Someone
of
Xeroxed
deconstructed 80s nostalgia poster, even though it's not all Mondo.
Mondo's just sells different looking stuff, but yeah.
You guys know the only poster that I actually own is My Dinner with Andre.
Right. And
Great movie
And
poster.
it's a terrible movie poster. That is literally, if I had to list that's in the genre
Actually, that's
of
what
travel
it's
posters
for,
where it just
screen
shows
captures of
like screen
scenes.
captures and it
There's
looks
actually a
crappy and the font is horrible.
Very brief, quick
Yeah.
story behind that. A girlfriend, many girlfriends ago, asked me what my favorite movie is. I told her that one,
Right.
and I told her about how when I was in college, the film editing room had movie posters all around it, and one of the movie posters there was My Dinner with Andre, and I always wanted it, and she like.
Before having seen the movie?
No. I
'cause it
love
You
was
saw
his
the
favorite
poster
movie.
and you were like, I love that movie.
I love that movie. I love
Ah.
that poster. It's an amazing poster. Don't wait.
Wow.
She goes online, finds the poster, gets it framed, gives it to me.
Yeah.
Cool gift. Not the same poster.
You wanted the poster for Andre, the movie with the seal and the girl.
No. It's the same movie, different poster. You know, movies have
Amazing.
multiple posters.
Right.
The other one is a much
Cooler.
poster.
Funny.
That's probably why you haven't hung it yet. Because you're like, this isn't really the one that I wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also love the poster for Manhattan, which is just a still from the movie with Woody Allen.
Yeah.
It's more special than it's still though. It's like there's
Yeah,
a
it's
grain
Brooklyn
at it.
Bridge,
It's like
yeah,
something.
yeah.
Yeah.
bench. It's
Yeah.
Cool.